We are privileged, and you are privileged, to have a legitimate NBA MVP voter on the desk. It's not me. It's not Dr. Joy Taylor. It is not David Helman. It is slick Ric Bucher. I say it's a privilege because for so long, people at home tweet about who should be the MVP. I tweet about it, I talk about it, but you actually make the decision. So you're an incredibly valuable person in this conversation, but in the basketball world. Clearly, I can ask who should win the MVP, but I could also ask who'd you vote for, because that's what it means. But who should win the award, Slick?
Well, the who should win MVP is what's much more loaded. So where do you want to go as far as our conversation is concerned?
Who should win the award?
Look, I voted for Joel Embiid. And I would say that we had three guys who were...
Save it. Save it. Save it. Like, don't give me those. Don't give me the compliments.
That's true. That's true.
You know, I would say, it's not you, it's me.
Okay.
You know, it's not
You know what?
fault.
I'm not even going to make a case for my choice. I'm not. I'm going to explain why Giannis was not the MVP.
Do that.
Okay.
And I'm ready. Should I take off my jacket?
It looks good.
Bonnie's gonna get upset. You're gonna tear up your, earpiece and everything.
Maybe I should put this like here. That's what this conversation would be like. Put the target on me. I couldn't vote for Giannis ultimately because his free throw shooting from last year was down. His three-point shooting from last year was down. Yeah. His blocked shots from last year were down. Assists, down. Games played, down. Oh, wait a minute. I did find one where it went up. Turnovers were up.
Oh,
yeah. So,
slick.
You don't talk about points, I see.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't talk about points.
Points went slightly up.
Don't talk about points.
I'll give you the points. But who led the league? Who led the league in scoring for the second year in a row?
Okay, chill out.
So, look, again, splitting hairs. You and I talked about this, actually, about all the things that you can dive into today to come to a conclusion as to who won and why. But when I took it all down, Embiid's dominant performances were more numerous than either Jokic's or Giannis's overall. And I look at the players around them and the years that they had.
Yes, sir.
Brook Lopez got my vote for Defensive Player of the Year. Certainly was in the running for everybody. He's going to be on everybody's ballot someplace. Drew Holiday was first-team All-NBA for me this year. And so much of what I had was when Giannis wasn't there, those guys were still able to carry the water in a way that Joel Embiid's teammates did not. Yep. Their record was actually, their winning percentage was actually better when James Harden was out and when Tyrese Maxey was out.
Sure.
And so when I weighed all of that, I was just, if I had to find a difference, that was the difference.
Joy, you know what I've learned in life? I need to see everybody.
Where's this going? Not even going to talk to me. He's going to talk to you.
What I have learned in life is people who don't like splitting hairs often don't have the hairs to split. But I got them. So I'm splitting hairs. Split. Giannis is the MVP. And it's very simple. See, what people try to do is talk about the talent around Giannis, as Slick just did to end his take. Much brilliance was said. But people try to talk about the talent around Giannis to undermine his MVP case. But here's what I want to remind everybody of. Chris Middleton did not become an NBA All-Star until Giannis became an NBA MVP. Drew Holiday, he was an All-Star in the 2012-13 season. He did not become an All-Star again until Giannis was consistently at an MVP level. And surely he was not a first-team All-NBA player by the likes of brilliant minds until Giannis was at a consistent MVP level. Let's talk Brook Lopez. When he made his all-defensive team in 2020, Giannis was at an MVP level. So rather than looking at the talent around Giannis to detract from Giannis's greatness, we should look at the talent around Giannis to confirm that Giannis is actually great, because the most talented players make those around them better. Don't look at James Harden struggling and say, man, look what Embiid has to do. I say James Harden struggling is more of an indictment on Embiid than it should be used to be praising Embiid. Look at what Steph Curry has done with the Golden State Warriors. The biggest sign of Steph Curry's greatness is that everybody around him, too, has become great. So Giannis, to me, is the MVP because it comes down to winning games. Who won the most games in basketball this year? The Bucks. Who had the best winning percentage this year when he played? Giannis. So Giannis individually has the best winning percentage. Giannis's team has the best winning percentage. I do not need to use stats to create a story of what actually happened. I can just read and watch the story. Giannis is the NBA MVP, but I know Joy Taylor disagrees with me.
All right. Well, first of all, everybody at this table has got a nice full head of hair, so we can split all of them that we want to do.
I was like, who are you taking shots at?
Plenty to spare.
I know. I was wondering where that.
No shots were being taken.
Well,
I'm just saying I can split them.
I've seen the makeup room after Dave's haircut. I have it after Rick, so there's a lot of it. So let's split some hairs.
Split them.
All right. Let's start with, and I don't want to do this. It's killing me on the inside. It's killing me to do this. But what championship did Giannis have before Drew walked in the door? Is it a zero? It's a none.
Fair.
It's a none. So, yes, the talent around Giannis also helps Giannis play at the level that Giannis plays at. And that's not taking anything away from Giannis, and I didn't even want to bring that up. So you got to blame Emmanuel for that.
No, Embiid doesn't have one either, so I'll continue. I'm listening.
No. But you're talking about the talent around him like it doesn't matter. It does. Like, that talent also supplements Giannis's abilities.
Correct.
And puts him in another space. And it put him in the conversation, a whole different conversation, because he's a championship now, which he didn't have before those pieces were there. So I say all that to say none of that actually even really matters, because this is an individual award.
Correct.
So, yes, how your team is doing should matter, but it's not everything, because they gave it to Jokić last year and they were a 6th seed. They gave it to Russell Westbrook the year that he averaged a triple-double and they were a 6th seed. So your team's success is a factor.
Should be.
And certainly when it's as close as it is between these three men, it should factor into
Absolutely.
it. But it's not everything, because if it was everything, then there's no way that Jokić would have won it last year, and there's no way that Russell Westbrook would have won it the year that he averaged a triple-double. Now, you can also argue that maybe they shouldn't have.
Correct.
Because they were only 6 seeds.
That's what I would
But it's in
argue.
the history book, so it doesn't matter. I don't like to argue about what it coulda, shoulda. What happened? What happened was the voters did not take that as the most important consideration in the MVP conversation. So we don't need to discuss if they are the 1 seed, because the Nuggets are the 1 seed. And we didn't even mention Jokić in this conversation yet. So that's one tiny factor in all of this. I hear what you're saying about Giannis. And Giannis has had an MVP level season, as do plenty of men every single year that an NBA season is played and don't win. There are very few times where it is very clear this is the MVP. It's very rare. And even the year that Westbrook won, there were people saying, like, this is not enough to win an MVP. But just because it has been something that we hadn't seen in so long, we gave it to him. So the narrative changes for what it is every single year. We know that. But when it's this close, as it has been this year, which, by the way, I am so grateful, because I did not want to go into this part of the season with it just being like, well, Jokić is the MVP again, and that's not. But that's what it was feeling like.
It is a lot more heated now than it was 2 months ago.
And that actually makes me encouraged about this award, because so often the whole conversation gets shut down right after the All-Star game. Like, oh, this person's the MVP. There's nothing that anyone could do to catch them. Like, okay, we're just not playing the rest of the season. We're not going to consider anything else. So I don't like the idea that it's outrageous that Embiid will win the MVP, which he should, and that it's shut down that Giannis is the MVP, and not necessarily that Jokić is just being shunned and punished for his prior 2 MVPs. Joel Embiid has earned the MVP this year for a multitude of reasons, and I'm glad that well, I mean, I'm not going to make the exact same case that Slick has made, but that's the case.
Hopefully make it better.
Weren't you listening?
Honestly. Tried not to.
Actually, I focused more on why Giannis wasn't.
Right,
So fair.
exactly. But it is an individual award. Like, and my thing is this, not that this should be the biggest consideration, because again, we're splitting hairs, since we can't come up with another term for it, but that's what it is. Ghosts matter in this conversation. We try to make them not matter, but they do. The ghost of back-to-back MVPs is mattering in this conversation with Jokić, as it should. The ghost of Giannis already winning an MVP is mattering in this situation.
I agree. I agree.
The ghost of Embiid never being rewarded with an MVP is mattering in this situation.
Yes.
But
Feeling that he should have won last year.
Sure.
Correct. The ghost of him winning the scoring title last year and then doing it again this year is mattering in it.
Sure.
But to be honest with you, I'm cool with that, because it changes every single year, and because we know that ghosts play a role in this situation.
Here's why, Dave, I'm not cool with it. I love what Joy said at the end. I agree with most, because what she said is entirely correct. It matters. But my thought is, I don't want to use a flawed history to continue to make a flawed future. If we are going to say that Jokić shouldn't have won MVP last year, and I don't think he should have, if we are going to say or imply that Russell Westbrook shouldn't have won MVP, and if you didn't vote for him the next 2 times he had a triple-double, then why'd you vote for him the first time he had a triple-double? Then I don't think he should have. Then I do not want to use our flawed voting past to continue to the trajectory of a flawed voting future. Where do you stand?
If that's true, then don't you think Jokić has a very, very compelling case to be MVP this year? Like,
Yeah, that's why
Because he's better. He was better this year, and they were better.
Do you agree with my theory that if not for last year, he would be the MVP?
More than
Jokić?
I'm not convinced it would even be that dramatic.
I said it at the beginning of the year. I thought that voters would look for a reason not to vote for Jokić this year.
Correct.
And if they found one, they would take it.
To Emmanuel's point, if that's what you want to do, and, you know, every year's different. We're not thinking about previous years. Probably give it to Jokić, honestly. And I said Giannis just because I wanted to make you happy, to be honest. But if that's what the criteria you're trying to use, I would like Jokić is just as deserving as anybody else, and he's got the team success this time to go with improving on his personal success. So if that's what you want to say, I think you could make a very compelling case for Jokić. I think really the only argument against him is that we're tired of voting for him.
But here's the problem. Here's why the past, I think, matters. Because I hear you. Just because you've done something a certain way does not by any means mean that you should continue to do it.
Correct.
We have millions of examples of that. But when it comes to this particular award, I don't know that it's possible to remove the past from the situation. There will always, first of all, there will always be a human element to it, and humans have biases, and as much as we like to say that we are removing them, we're not, because that's not real. So let's just operate in a real space of authenticity. We all have biases, which we can't erase.
No doubt.
And there are precedents being set with this award. If Jokić was to win 3 MVPs in a row, you are essentially saying he is the best player of this decade. Like, there's no one that comes close. Is that how you feel? Is that what we feel? We don't feel that way. He's going to be put into this space in NBA history that whether or not he's good enough to be in that space, the postseason success does not reflect that. So all of these things, whether we want them to matter or not, whether it's fair or not, they play a part in the selection of this award.
Here's my thought process, because I agree with Joy now on that unequivocally. My thought is this. We know Jokić is more likely than not the most valuable player, because he doesn't necessarily have postseason success. Now, it's not a postseason award, but unless Jokić is like, okay, it's the postseason, I don't have to be as valuable anymore, then we know his value doesn't actually translate in the most meaningful moments.
Right.
I, too, would surmise that Embiid's value does not translate in the most meaningful moments. I would suggest that Giannis's value has translated over the last 5 years in the most meaningful moments, but Slick, my last point is very simple. If you just watch the tape, I don't think Jokić is more valuable than Giannis because Jokić don't play no defense. Jokić don't got no chase down blocks from half court in meaningless games against Washington. Sure. I don't think Embiid is more valuable than Giannis because Giannis's level of effort, Giannis's level of galvanization, Giannis's level of determination to win regardless of any cost, it exceeds that of Embiid, and you have seen it time and time again. So if you just look at the games, the hoopers, Giannis is a better basketball player and a more valuable basketball player than Joel Embiid.
The problem is you went from a tangible, which is demonstration of defense, to heart, determination, effort, all of that.
I thought you were capable of quantifying.
Well, but Giannis is so crazy athletic. He's going to look more determined or whatever those things that you said he is. That doesn't mean that Embiid isn't working hard, and it really doesn't define whether they're having an impact on the game or not. I could turn it around and say, because of Embiid's size and his ability to shoot the three at a higher level, he creates a greater conundrum to deal with than Giannis does, as great as Giannis is. And I don't like being put in the position of having to criticize Giannis because I think the intangibles,
not a good position to be.
The intangibles are there. But just to be clear through this whole argument, because I was keeping track of points made.
I saw that.
Joy pretty much killed it 6-0. Joy versus Emmy.
You know what those are? Those are mic numbers.
It was 5, and then you came in hard with one more.
Did you change your vote, though? Did I get you to change your vote?
6 for what?
To Giannis.
When? Next year?
No. Well, this was all
I'm not calling the league and going, hey, wait a minute.
Acho said.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.